September 30 is the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. We're joined today by Sophie Maglione, who's a residential school survivor, and she's here today to tell us about her story. Sophie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, Sophie, you're a residential school survivor. Can you tell us a brief history of your time attending these schools?
I was 6 years old in 1946, 47, when I was taken from Saddle Lake Reserve, came by a truck with other children, forcibly removed from our homes, didn't know where we were going, and driven to St. Paul, Blue Quills Residential School, about 3 miles west of St. Paul. Like, I was very young, I didn't know what was going on. I just knew I was being taken away from my home, the only home I knew. And I had 2 sisters and a brother with me. I mean, my brother was too young, he wasn't there, but my 2 sisters were there. And brought into the school. I was there till 1957. Didn't finish school. I was in grade 11 when I quit. Actually, I was kicked out of school. But the father, the principal, apologized to me and he said, "Don't go, you're doing good." And I said, I was so stubborn then, I said, "No," I said, "I'm going. If you kick me out, I'm going."
You had 1 more year left to graduate.
That's right, that's right. Eventually I did finish, and I did finish my grade 12 in that, about 1997. Anyway, the first year, there was a Father Latour was the principal. He was very, very kind. He knew our history, of course. You know, that we were orphans from an early age. Both my parents had passed away. My maternal grandmother had passed away, and we only had our grandfather. And he had 9 children, so he had 4 of us. So it was 11 children that he had, or well, 9 and 4.
Can we?
13.
Sorry, Sophie. You said you were 6 years old when you were taken to that school.
Yes.
You also mentioned that there were a bunch of other kids taken with you, and you had no choice in this.
That's right. You know, and there was a lot of crying, parents and children. I remember that. You know, and we were just confused. You know, what is going on here? You know, why was this happening? Didn't have a clue what was happening. We weren't told why.
What didn't you like about the school? How were you treated there?
I didn't like being away from my family. We were not allowed to speak our language, for one. We didn't know any English, which was a primary language then. We were Cree speaking, most of us. There are other children from Lake Offa that were brought into, and you know, Goodfish Lake and Saddle Lake. But you know, most I guess was loneliness. You know, I remember that all the time. Lonely. You know, I know what lonely is. I'm lonely right now because I'm alone again. You know. But you know, like another thing too, like we had the nuns that were looking after us in the playrooms. And they weren't very kind, you know.
Did you suffer physical abuse?
Yes, I did, yeah. I remember, you know, like fists were being used on us, you know. I remember fists used on me. And, like, there was a priest in there, you know, after Father Latour left, another priest, Father Roland. And he took me to this cloakroom. I must have been about, 8, something like that. So I knew what was going on. He brought me to his cloakroom by myself. Nobody saw what was going on. So his word against mine. Shut the door. And he said to me, he says, why I see your report cards, not very good. He says, and your teacher is saying that you're not doing very good. And I was so scared of him, and I giggled in fright. And he thought I was laughing at him. All of a sudden, I seen him, his face just, went, and I saw his fist coming at me. And I ducked like this, and he got me right, right instead of my face. He was aiming for my face, I'm sure, because he got me in
the ear. And you testified against this in court as well.
Oh yes, and I lost my hearing. I've got a hearing aid right now, and ever since then, I've had suffered through my hearing, because when I talk to people, they get frustrated, because I can't hear them. I ask them to repeat it, And matter of fact, it just happened lately, And anyway, I've had a hearing aid all my life since then, My grandfather never hit me like that, And he was the only one that really loved us, And my first grandmother, his wife, but she passed away when I was 7. Those are the only 2 people that loved us, really,
Can you tell us some of your other experiences from the school? You said you didn't know in your court statement about the bees and the flowers.
Oh, birds and the bees.
Birds and the bees.
Yes, that is something, really, really, it's very emotionally abusive. Like, we didn't even know our bodies. We didn't know what a menstruation was. They call them monthlies or periods, whatever. We didn't know what sex was. And we used to have showers, and we had these canvas things covering us, covering each other, and we had a shower in that. So we never seen each other. And then we had bathrooms, and there was about maybe six toilets, they call them, and there was one there that belonged to the big girls, And we used to pass by there, those little ones, and it smelled funny, we went by. We were wondering what the heck it was. One time I was nosy, and I went in there, and I thought, a horrible smell. There was this bag in there, and so I asked somebody, and they were laughing at me, that's for big girls. He said, it's not for you, So eventually, when my turn came, there were rags. It wasn't like Codex now, Codex were way back, there were just little pads in that, big pads. But they had rags, and then the girls would use them. I don't know, we used safety pins,
Okay.
Oh, it's funny. I just remembered that, safety pins. And then we put them in these bags, and they washed them, and then they recycled them.
You reused rags.
Yes, they were used rags and that. And so I didn't again, it was in the summer when I got my periods, and I woke up one morning, and I was bleeding, in my underwear. And I thought, what is going on here, And I ran to my grandmother and my sister, and they were laughing at me, laughing, Oh, he says, all the girls get this, And I said, what is it, They wouldn't tell me. I don't know how I found out what it was about, In consequence, I didn't know anything about having children. I didn't know, of course, about sex, children. How do you get them, Not a thing, it was so dumb, really, And I'm not the only one. I mean, the other children must have had the same experience.
What age were you when you had your first child?
I think 18, And it was a, nice-looking guy, and, he was after me and that, and of course, I told one time, we were looking at pictures and that, I said, yeah, pretty nice looking, you know. And a guy told me, you know, like they were looking at residential school stuff. You still are, he told me, you know. But anyway, he got me into his motel room, you know. Didn't know nothing, you know. Hurt like hell. Right away, I got pregnant, you know.
And you were surprised to be pregnant because you didn't.
I didn't know what it was, and I ended up with. I was working for a white family, and that when they found out I was pregnant, actually I got syphilis out of it. I remember that now. And after that, I thought, what the heck? What, you know? So what? You know, it's over. You know, I'm no longer. You know, I'm no longer a virgin. You know, so you know, it just, you know, hell is, you know. So I went with another guy, and I must have passed on to him. Police came, RCMP came to get me, brought me to the hospital, and I had to get shots and stuff like that. You know, it was so humiliating, you know. Again, nobody told me anything about that. Yeah. I remember these things as you're pushing all this stuff, you know. You know, I don't think I even have it in my book, you know.
How were the other kids like in your school?
Well, we're actually, there was 3 of us, and my older sister was, you know, she was pretty popular, like she was one of the older ones. I guess I don't remember any really good friends that I had, you know. Later on I did, but right off the bat, you know, like we were orphans, you know. We really had nobody, you know. Barely anybody came to see us. Yeah. And
you weren't allowed to go back home on the weekends?
No. Not until it was quite a while. My grandfather had to come by team. It was 18 miles to his school, and so he didn't come very often. And when he did come, he didn't have very much money, you know. And we were so glad to be able to eat our own ethnic food, you know, like ducks and duck soup and stuff like that. Like we didn't even know the food that they were giving us at the school, you know, like porridge and you know, stale bread and stuff like that, and skim milk. They'd skim the milk and that, you know, make cream for themselves. I was in grade 9, like the children were they only had school up to grade 8, and you know, they that was it. You know, they went home, whatever. Like my older sister, she only went to grade 8, and you know, actually both of them. By the time my turn came, I think it was 59. I think it can be 57, I guess. They bused us to St. Paul, and we were put in with the French students, and boys used to giggle, you know. Weren't used to that, you know, and I thought they were pretty dumb, you know. And anyway, we were out of place with the white children. And it made it worse the way the school handled, Blue Quills handled even the meals. Like they would bring boxes and that, and we had to sit in one corner and eat out. You know, the other kids, you know, were together like with their friends, and you know, they laughed at us. Not, you know, it wasn't. We didn't know any different, you know, but we knew we were different, you know. And,
can you tell us about this photo? This is the school?
This is Blue Quills Residential School, the back. And I must have been about Must have been about 15 or 16 in this picture.
This was right about when you left?
Yeah, about the time I left. Yeah.
You
Would have been 15 years old then.
One of the documents you gave us, you received a statement of apology signed by Stephen Harper, former Prime Minister, in 2008. One of these statements, please.
For more than a century, Indian residential schools separated over 150,000 Aboriginal children from their families and communities. Two primary objectives of these schools were to remove and isolate children from the influence of their homes, traditions, and cultures, to assimilate them into the dominant culture. So the approximately 80,000 living former students and all family members and communities, the Government of Canada now recognized that it was wrong to forcibly remove children from their homes. We now recognize that too often these institutions gave rise to abuse or neglect. Indeed, some thought, as it was infamously said, kill the Indian in the child. Tragically, some of these children died while attending residential schools and others never returned home.
Do you think the reconciliation, this apology letter, can you tell me how did it make you feel upon receiving it?
Well, it wasn't Prime Minister Harper's fault, that's for sure. The fault of that residential school system was in the early 1800s by a first Prime Minister who was John A. Macdonald. And he was the one that decreed that the children be separated from their homes and put in white schools and get rid of their culture and be like the white people, get rid of their language and their everything, their homes. And so this was done way back then, and it kept on going until, well, I still had to go to the school, and it was 1957 I was there myself, from 1946 until 1957.
You also received a monetary settlement. Do you think that was enough and fair for reconciliation?
Well, what is enough for anybody really, it's just a token. Depending, if you were sexually abused, you got more. It was all categorized, So, I don't know, I only got about, a little over 1,000, I think, something like that. But they said it was millions of dollars that they gave out. But I've yet to see that, the white people would say, or Native people would say forked tongue to white people, They were doing it then, like today, And the people that I meet now, and the people that, because of this Kelowna, children that were found this year. So I tell people, I'm a survivor. There's not too many of us left. They are so shocked hearing about it. And, I said there's not too many of us left. Let's share that information. It really happened to us, It happened to me when I was 6 years old, taken from my family.
Sorry, you're referring to the 215 buried children remains that they found in Kamloops.
Yes. And, I talked to my sister about this, my older sister. Just her and I are alive. And she told me that there was some children, babies were buried behind Blue Quills. And nobody said anything about Alberta. They said about Saskatchewan, and they said about BC. Nothing about Alberta. And for one, she did tell me that there was 2 boys that were called by a priest. No names, I don't know what, she didn't tell me no names. And they had this little box, and they went in the back of the school Here's the school at the back over here. There was a barn over here and that, you know, there was cows and stuff like that over here. They went in the back, and the priest went somewhere, and the boys opened the lid, and there was a baby in there, a dead baby. And they shared that with, of course, you know, with other boys and that, and girls and that. And that's how I only knew, you know, about this, you know. And so when I found out, I read about this other children in Kamloops, I thought, yeah, it happened, you know, it happened in Saskatchewan, you know. I think we were treated like the black people in the United States. And that's another thing too. I just read again the other day that they had the same thing happening in the States, and that it's starting to come out, all this stuff. And what good is it? You know, what good is it? You know, what is it going to accomplish really? It's a black history that we have, you know, and the States have a black history too, you know. And like, you know, why didn't, like, we were still a colony of Britain, you know, why, I always think, why are we still, you know, a colony of Britain? Why? You know, how much money are they spending on the Queen? You know, the Governor General, you know, they're always talking about, oh, we got too much, you know, they're spending too much money, you know. There's a lot of things they can get rid of. We're supposed to be our own country. We should be by ourselves, governing ourselves, you know. We don't need the Queen anymore. She is even being attacked, you know. Again, I read a lot of stuff, you know, and like I have a B.Ed right now in elementary education, plus a directorship in early childhood. So I'm not as uneducated as I was when I was, you know, I was a teenager.
What do you hope had happened differently when you were a teenager?
Like what happens to the, you know, like the white kids, you know. But, you know, like eventually, I don't know if I would have gone to a school, you know, regular school. Who knows what would have happened? There was a day school in the reserve, you know, and they had white teachers. There's no such thing as Native teachers, you know, then.
So you think the statement of apology didn't give you the closure or peace you desired?
Never, you know.
Tell us why BC 31 affected you. You speak about it in your transcript.
Well, that's another, you know, I don't know how to explain it, but the name for it. I married out to, I guess, I married out of the reserve, okay.
Okay.
My husband was Italian Canadian, and I lost my status in 1962. I married out. My sister Jenny, she married a French fellow. She lost her status. The only one that didn't lose her status was my sister, because she married a Chippewan from Legoff. Neither did my brother lose his status, because men didn't lose it, you know.
But you regained your status years later, right?
In 1985, they got a Bill C-31, they called it, because that was the government's number for what happened to us. We got all our status back, you know.
Can you tell me the effects you suffer to this day, or the effects that you think you suffer, whether it's psychological or from your years at the school? Has anything stayed with you?
Well, I think the worst that happened to us was losing our parents, they weren't there to protect us. But then they wouldn't have been able to protect us either, you know, because my grandfather couldn't. None of the other children who had parents, they couldn't protect their children either. We were just rounded up like cattle, put in a cattle truck, and brought to the Blue Quills Residential School. And we were locked up in that. Actually locked up. You know, we couldn't go outside, you know, unless unlock the door and, hey, you can go play outside. It was just like the Nazis, you know.
You described it as being in the Auschwitz.
That's right. You know, they did, the children died too, you know. And our culture was, you know, beat out of us, really, you know.
Why are you speaking up about it now, Sophie? What are you hoping?
Oh, I've talked about it before. You know, it's always there. I started a book, you know, a few years back, and my daughter, I asked her to read it and retype it, and she tore it up on me. And I said, "Why did you do that?" He said, "Because," he said, "it's too brutal, you know." Because I had her in there too, like, she suffered too with what I suffered. You know, she had 2 divorces, you know. She had, she never, you know, her last boy she wasn't married to the guy, you know. Neither the first one. They abandoned her. I was abandoned too, you know. The guys got away with it. Oh, that's another thing too, like this Bill C-31. The men, they married a white woman. That woman got her status. But eventually they cut that out, but right at the beginning, that's what happened.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your book? What's it called, and what can we expect?
My what?
Your book.
Oh, my book. Well, actually, it's titled The 4 Red Apples. That the phrase was brought up by a couple of people, and it was brought up again by one of my professors when I was taking my education class. So I've used that because we're red outside and, no, let's see, we're white outside and red inside, something like that. Okay, that's why I said white apples. Yeah, red outside and white inside, because our culture was taken from us, and you be a white man now, you know, you be white, you know. And it's mainly about the residential school experiences, and I have categorized these sections where I talk about my grandmother, Eugenia, the only mother we had, and my grandfather, you know, because my grandfather was sent away too in industrial school. And then my mother, I have her on there, and my father, not too much because I was only 2 when he passed away. And when I was doing the research, there was nothing on him. I couldn't find it. I had to go right to the Indian Affairs in Ottawa, and I haven't done that yet. I have books of, you know, like pages of stuff that I got about my family. So all this stuff is real, like it's in Ottawa. And just lately I heard that they wanted to get rid of this stuff, you know. They're ashamed of it. It's over, it's done, you know, want to get rid of it. It's still history. You know, it's a shameful history for Canada. It'll always be there, you know. Anyway, I have all the 4 of us, and I put in the residential school stuff in there where they attended, and their experiences. And I have interviewed my older sister about it, and now 2 of my siblings have passed away, so I can't go back to them and talk to them again.
Sorry for your loss.
Yeah, thank you.
You shared with us some photos from your time at the school. Is this one of them?
Yes, this is my grade 1 picture. I don't know where I got a hold of this, but
Can you point yourself out? Which one are you here?
right here.
One in the front.
Most people that look, I ask them, where's my picture? They can't, they don't know. See, I got glasses then too, and that. So this is all the grade 1 and 2 class, and that's our grade 1 teacher here, and a mother superior right here. And like you can tell the different colors of the kids in that, from, like we're all lighter, darker, and stuff like that, just from the picture. Even the boys over here. There's a lot of them are passed away, but
And you shared with us another photo. This was you at the school then, and this is you there years later?
Yeah, I was married here already, right here. I was still in school right here. This too, this was in the back of the school, Blue Quills, and this was in front again, like this one. And this was the back of the school.
And you had gotten your degree here in teaching already, right?
Yes, yeah.
How did that make you feel to go back after making something of yourself?
Where there?
Back to the school. Why did you return?
Well, I don't know, I just wanted to go look, see, somebody told me it was all different and that, but, like now they have, they've turned it into I don't know, college or university.
Mm-hmm.
And it's run by the native people now.
Sophie, what can we do to support residential school survivors? What do you think could make this better for them or easier? What is your advice?
Now, I don't know. I really don't know. I think they can bury it, it's history. And I did write a letter to the Edmonton Journal because they were fed up of it, people. Or I don't know if it was, the LaGrange was the education minister in Alberta. And they said, that's it, we're fed up of it, let's get rid of it out of the history books.
When was this?
And do not, just last year, and they said, why do we want to know that? The kids don't need that, they don't understand that. They do understand that. I taught grade 2 and grade 6, and they understand what happened to, residential schools and that to the native people. Especially the native kids, they know that, and that they don't want the white kids to know about it. It's history, They'll never wipe it out, and they're trying to.
We've discussed the monetary settlement and your school experience and how BC 31 has affected you. What else, is there anything else you would like to share with us today, Sophie?
Well, not right now. I think I've, it's quite a bit. I will be getting this book done, because for some reason, because you have reached out to me, it gave me the push, let's finish this book.
The 4 Red Apples.
And so many people have asked me, where's that book, And that even my denturist in Alberta, I want to see your book, I want to see, he didn't even know anything about it. And he lived in a Ponoka area, and there's a couple of reserves close by, like Obima, it's, close by to Ponoka, They had their school right in the reserve, and they were lucky there, like they took the school out of Saddle Lake, but in Obima they left the school there. But it was still a residential school, but their parents were close by. They weren't hauled away.
Thank you for sharing your story with us, Sophie.
Yeah, I'm glad I could share it, because there's not too many of us left, I hope I finish my book before I go to,
Hopefully you'll finish your book.
Yeah, I will.
I look forward to reading it, and thank you for speaking with me, Sophie, today.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah.